It is Wednesday, April the 13th. Here it is, your post-daily news show. I am John Pollock, and we have lots to get into today, and I am teaming up with my sidekick here at Post Wrestling, a man who I always enjoy chatting with, the one and only Double Underscore. Yes.
What's going on, Joe? How you feeling?
How's it going,
man?
Andrew? The youngest in charge himself.
I was about to say the sidekick. Though, am I robbing? Am I robbing the Batman?
I did not imply that at all. I mean, you can be Batman. I can be Robin. Whichever distinction we want. I think we complement one another.
I appreciate it either way, though, man. It's good to see you, man. Good to see you.
It is good to see you as well, Andrew. So we haven't gotten to chat recently, but quickly just wrapping up. I mean, you were there in Dallas for WrestleMania week. I'm sure it was all a blur going back, but overall, I'm sure a worthwhile trip for you going to Dallas and all the shows you got to catch.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was that was my first time ever going to like a WrestleMania week and like seeing all the different shows and stuff like that. So it was cool getting to see everybody out there, man. You know, a lot of people that you see through social media, you finally get to see them and interact with them in person. So on top of going to see all the good shows and stuff like that, man, it was a good time.
Was that your first time attending a WrestleMania?
Yeah, I've never been to a WrestleMania before. Like that was my first like WrestleMania week as a whole. Mm-hmm. Like I've never been to any. Yeah, so it was cool.
And how did that differ from like the viewing experience of WrestleMania, being there in the stadium and also like a full capacity WrestleMania, unlike last year?
Yeah, I think anybody can speak to this. I think it's just more so like with any pro wrestling show, like for most times, like when you're there in person, it sort of enhances like what you see opposed to like watching it from home. So I definitely think if I didn't go to that WrestleMania, I think I would probably have like a different view on it. But since I was there and got to be around people and stuff like that, I think it enhanced the overall viewing experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think largely it was very positive, especially for the first night's WrestleMania. I think you had a lot of the high points of either night on the first night, and it seemed like a pretty spectacular crowd that held up. In particular, going from Becky and Bianca right into Cody and Seth, like that was pretty much an hour that audience was very much into everything.
Yeah, it was hot, and I think specifically that point that you mentioned, that stretch, that Becky Bianca, because that like I started to, like when they started playing the video package for Becky and Bianca, like when they started doing that, that's when the crowd sort of started to pick up a little bit, and then immediately following that we had Seth versus Cody. So like it was like a rowdy crowd, like going from that point. Like was it kind of the same for you? Like you and Wade watching, like was it like sort of that same type of feeling?
Oh, it came through definitely for those two matches. Like the audience seemed amped for both of them. It was, what I said on the show, I thought for Cody, it was like you had the giant reveal pop, but then they had to go another, 20 minutes on top of that. And it wasn't like this come down after this huge peak for just the reveal of Cody. So I thought both matches were tremendous that night.
Yeah, it definitely was, man. I was going to just add on, like, I don't know if it came off because I haven't had a chance to watch the actual broadcast yet, but like for you guys,
you haven't been able to set aside like 8 hours to watch WrestleMania.
but like for you guys, like for that Bianca reaction, man, I don't know how it came across on TV, but man, when I say when she got the 3 count for that title win, like it was jumping in there, like people they were like excited, like everybody was amped up for Bianca. I don't know, did they come across the same way?
I thought so. And for me, it was like the entrance was just spectacular. I think from that moment, cool. It really, like it was a good buildup for the match. But I just think like with the that entrance, it really just elevated that this is a really significant match. And I thought the entrance really just set the tone for the entirety of the match that followed. And they peaked with the finish. Like you couldn't, I think, have been disappointed in any way with that match. And it became very tough for Charlotte and Ronda to follow it. And I think they kind of have their work cut out for them now to bring that match back in a couple of weeks at WrestleMania Backlash.
Yeah, you know it was crazy. It was quiet, like when to me, like it felt like it was kind of like sort of quiet through that Charlotte Ronda match. And I think the reason they got the reaction they did at the end because people were so surprised that Charlotte actually won the match. I think everybody kind of assumed that this is going to be Ronda's crowning moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely got to be on the agenda, one of these events in the next year, Andrew, that maybe we can finally meet That should be our goal over the next year.
Yes.
Well, if our paths shall cross from our different countries, that one of these events we shall meet up. But we have several things to discuss, and I want to just circle back to NXT 2.0 on Tuesday night. And I guess the major news coming out of the show was the crowning of Pretty Deadly as our new tag champions after they had to take the tag titles off of MSK with Nash Carter's release. And obviously, they were not going to go into any details on that show. But even before we talk about going with Pretty Deadly, it puts like Wes Lee sort of in limbo now in terms of what is the next step for him, whether it's put into a new tag team, singles run. Like he's sort of just a casualty in this whole unfortunate news.
Yeah, and it could come to a situation where he's like sort of collateral. Cause like I think that's something that could come out of this, and it's unfortunate as hell that it could be that way. But I think that's sort of the reality of the situation. Like it's like, where do you slot this guy? Like where do you put him? He's obviously talented as hell, but it's like I think everybody's always going to know him as his tag team partner of Nash Carter. I'm talking about in this specific world, like as far as WWE goes, like that's what he's going to be viewed as. So I think we all would rather prefer him to just, maybe be slotted into a singles position. Maybe he gets involved in a North American title scene, or like if you don't really see a spot for him in NXT, then maybe you try your hand on the main roster and just like see, what happens from there. Like it's either gonna work or it's not. Like that's the only two options that can come from that. But like I hope that he does get a shot. Like I remember like I think I had sent this out like I want to say like 2 years ago almost. When I had did one of my first interviews, it was with Wes Lee, and I remember I had like the most terrible audio, like it was just horrible. And he took time, like he wrote, like he went like into a Microsoft document and like typed up every single answer like that he had, and it was like paragraph form, like details. So I always appreciate him doing that for me. And like besides, like but the personal stuff aside, like he is a very talented wrestler. So I do hope he gets his fair shake. Like, do you think that was like sort of I mean, but they didn't really have any option. But like when you look at the field of teams that they had, you think Pretty Deadly was the best option to do, or would you have went with the Creeds like everybody was sort of suspecting?
I don't mind the direction they went because, coming out of that match, it really seems like the Creeds are going to be in a babyface role and they have someone to chase now instead of just doing this feud with Pretty Deadly. Now it's your title program and they have something to chase. So it's kind of interesting to see the Creeds now in a babyface position. Like that gauntlet match, like Pretty Deadly won, but that match was really built around the Creeds in that one. So I kind of like that direction with them. Going that direction. You can see like the Creeds are obviously the major focus of that tag division.
I say, John, I wanted to actually ask you, like, I mean, because we were saying with Pretty Deadly calls coming over from NXT UK, and then also with the announcement of Nathan Frazier coming over. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going on with like? I mean, I don't think anything's going on with NXT UK, but it really does seem like they're like migrating like a lot of talent like over to the NXT 2.0, and we just had A Kid come over too, so it's like. So I think I'm just more so just curious of like what's going on, because I really don't think this is going to be the last time within the next few weeks that we're sort of seeing like these NXT UK talents sort of migrating over to the US.
I think that's sort of what we're seeing now is that you're seeing all of these call-ups to the main roster. So spots are becoming open and it's taking people that are either in the PC or kind of like, what is the purpose of NXT UK? Like we've got this deal with BT Sport, but it's like if we're not making any stars here, it's like what is the point of this thing if it's just people performing on BT Sport week after week after week? Like we do need to show some results here from NXT UK and getting them over here in the case of a Walter, and now he gets up to the main roster. So I think it's spots are being created over there, and it's like we've got to migrate over, because I think it's going to be very frustrating for performers in NXT UK that, you're talking 3 years in this system of, it's like, there's not a whole lot of upward mobility. And I think honestly, like you hear this announcement that it's going to be this major stadium show in Wales. It's like the NXT UK talent, it's like, they're not going to be on that card.
Yeah, for sure. And like even we've even seen like to sort of add to your point, like even when WWE does like the UK tours, like they like the NXT UK talent, they're never featured on those for the most part.
There's not a lot of synergy, Andrew. Yeah. Even on NXT itself, it's not like we get a highlight package of here's what's going on NXT UK and tune in on Thursdays. Like there's none of that in terms of promotion. You could be a pretty hardcore WWE viewer watching Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, you would not even know NXT UK exists. It's very much like its own island.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like I had talked to Will a little bit about this, and you sort of mentioned the transition from NXT 2.0 to the main roster. Like, what do you think it is? Like, I know it's like a sort of like a deep question in a way, but like, what do you think it is that like now this transition is so smooth now? Not, I don't want to say smooth, but like it just seems like the like talents coming in from NXT 2.0 is like way more swifter than it was like when the NXT 1.0 incarnation, like when everybody kind of wanted to see these talents from the main roster sort of go back into NXT, but it never happened. And then now we have this sort of thing where it's like a regular thing now. We got Natalya coming down. Dolph Ziggler just finished up his run. Like, yeah. I mean, you know, looking at how Dolph Ziggler got his run, like you wouldn't even be surprised if Natalya was to take the title off Mandy Rose at some point and like sort of do like a veteran transition to the younger talent type thing. Like, what do you sort of think it is just off the top of your head that like it seems like the crossover is so much more. Like everything is much more intertwined now, opposed to when it was under the umbrella of Triple H.
Well, I definitely think it's definitely a renewed focus. Like it is more of a priority than it was a year ago. We're coming up on just it was this week, a year ago this week, that they made the move from Wednesday to Tuesday nights, and that became sort of this lame duck period where I think it was viewed as, you know, it failed on Wednesday nights. I mean, there's no other way to categorize it. Now, I think that they look at, you know, they're going to put a certain level of talent that they're willing to put down there for an extended period, ones that don't have a whole lot going on the main roster. So there's a value to it. And you just see some of the reactions that, you know, these people get. Like Natalya came out.
She got the pop.
Like, dude, she seemed legitimately stunned at this level of reaction that these 200 or so fans have. Like, they see anyone from the main roster is going to be like if Akira Tozawa walked out, I think the roof would blow off. It's my God, the ninja's here. So I mean, it's great for that. And I think honestly, when you're talking about so much inexperienced talent, it's like utilize these people to work with like a Tatum Paxley. I mean, I guess that'll be a great experience for her next week. But certainly, there's definitely a renewed focus, and we'll see if it kind of goes back and forth. Like if we're going to see some like NXT stories appear on Raw, like they decided to do the title change on Raw, and if it's just going to be sort of one way from this path forward.
About to say, you talking about Natalya, that reaction she got, and I know especially that it was a loud reaction, but especially when you in a venue like that, man, those 200 people sound like probably like 60,000, like when it's all packed in like that.
When these crowds are leaving every Tuesday night, they should be given like $20 on the way out. Every single one of these fans are the most passionate and like loyal NXT supporters you will find. They make everything try to sound incredible. So anyway, it was how did you feel that segment came across, especially for Cora Jade, in terms of like being like the over the top you know, just having to play like the fangirl,
yeah. Like I think that was like sort of, I mean that's not how she portrays herself character wise, but like, you know, she mentioned like the AJ Lees and the Sasha Banks and, you know, the abundance of talents that are currently on the main roster that influence her. And even seeing her, I swear I get the feeling that I'm old sometimes. Like I'd be like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like she's like, I feel like I'm old.
I like when Andrew's good man. It makes me feel old.
But yeah, man. But I think it did what it had to do, and I think I kind of like that Natalya sort of like specifically mentioned on the part where you said she got emotional. I think that was legit. Like I think she was like really.
Oh, I thought surprised. Natalya was legitimately moved because I don't think they were to the point that it was almost like a bummer that this segment was laid out the way it was. Like this audience just was like worshiping Natalya. It's like, okay, she's here to do a heel turn. Like I don't think the audience wanted to see that, but there's a larger story at play here.
Exactly.
And you know, Cora Jade getting a big win over Natalya is like that last step to get another rematch with Mandy Rose. Like obviously that looks to be your long-term plan. And yeah, like Natalya isn't doing a whole lot on the main roster, so utilize her for a month or so, and you can cycle people in and out of NXT. But yeah, I think everyone was. I think Natalya was certainly blown away by that response she got.
I think that Natalya being in this spot, like I feel like for her it'll be like that fresher breath there, and also for the people that watch WWE, watch the product on a consistent basis. Like, cause when we see her on the main roster, it's just like, oh, that's Natalya. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just what she does. Always been a solid performer, always been a great in-ring performer. But it's like now I feel like she'll be able to sort of flex her muscles a little bit, and I feel like there'll be less she'll be able to move around a little bit, have a little bit more wiggle room in NXT 2.0 because she's of course the veteran amongst these group of not call them rookies, but like essentially less experienced people opposed to when you compare them to Natalya. So I think she'll get a solid run out of this, man, and hopefully that sort of transitions or that hype sort of transitions over whenever she heads back to the main roster. And I think when she goes back, I wouldn't be surprised if like Mandy Rose is like following her like not too soon after that, because I think what you said is going to happen. Cora Jade is probably going to take the title off Mandy.
Well, there was no wiggle room for Joe Gacy when he burned Rick Steiner's Hall of Fame ring, and then for whatever reason decided he was going to place the ring on himself. This looked incredibly painful, and this is our big title program to come. Braun Breaker and Joe Gacy fighting for the championship versus ring.
Boo. I mean, Braun and Gacy, I mean, like I'm not really feeling it, but that's they trying to tell a story. It is what it is. It's not my thing. Like it's talking about specifically them two. Maybe they'll end up turning out a good match. Like who knows? But what do you feel about it? Braun versus Joe Gacy and him stealing Rick Steiner's Hall of Fame, kidnapping his father. So.
Well, I was glad that after 7 days of concern, we learned that Rick Steiner was left unharmed afterwards. Minus they stole the man's ring, so there's theft. We could get criminal charges maybe against one Joe Gacy. Yeah, I can't say this one was all that noteworthy. Although no Harland. Where was Harland last night?
I don't. Oh, he did get married recently, so maybe that was like honeymoon type thing, probably.
Okay, so he had his own ring then.
There you go.
They could have matching rings next week.
These puns that you throwing out, man.
You really just opened the door for them.
hey, John. I also wanted to mention real quick, while we're on the topic of NXT 2.0, Roxy made her debut at the Level Up tapings. She's now, I think the name was Roxanne Perez that they changed her name to. So
so that will be on Friday night. Have you been following any of Level Up yet?
No. Yeah, I've not seen that one show.
It's kind of the domestic version of NXT UK is one that's kind of off the beaten path of WWE. But no, she's a real talent. You've had a chance to speak with her. Yeah. I think that's someone you could integrate very quickly onto NXT. It's going to be interesting to see, all of these call-ups that we're going through now, and you have to imagine later in the year when the draft comes that like how fast some of these performers are going to be up there. I'm talking your Braun Breakers, Carmelo Hayes, that I don't think gets enough attention either. About like he to me has been one of the big standouts of this 2.0 era, and Cora Jade is another that obviously like you can see who the big projects are and how fast they are moved to the main roster, and then having to fill those roles on 2.0. Like it's going to be a constant influx of people from UK, these NIL athletes that are coming in. Like that's going to be the makeup, I think, of NXT 2.0, and it could be very different 6 months from now, 12 months from now.
Yeah, and you mentioned Carmelo Hayes, man. Like I definitely think he's one of those guys that's like not getting enough like credit for sort of stepping up to the plate, and like I really like what Carmelo Hayes is doing. I also like the addition of Trick Williams, being his his hype man.
I think they work really well together.
Yes. They're great as a duo, and like I think it's to the point now where it's sort of like that, and I don't want to compare it to MVP Lashley, but I mean it in the sense of like when you see one, you should always expect to see the other. Like the complete act is not complete without the other one. Like they sort of need each other, and they very much complement each other, and that sort of reminded me of like the MVP Lashley dynamic. Like they just really benefited each other and really clicked. So I'm hoping that when Carmelo and Trick, like when eventually I think they'll get called up to the main roster. But I think there's a lot that they can offer. Like I think Trick Williams is really great on the mic. He's funny as hell. So, and I think Carmelo being like the serious one, it just, I think they have a great overall dynamic. But like when you, I was going to say like when you look at sort of these call ups that could happen, like I think that, do you think sort of WWE's more mindset with some of these talents that they have in the PC right now is like, it's either a sink or swim type thing. Like we're going to just throw them out there. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then, go back to the drawing board type mindset.
I do. I don't know if we're going to see too many performers where we're looking at they're 4 years in the system, 3 years in the system. I think it's going to be a lot less of a rope that they have where they are going to be making more snap decisions. And that's tough because especially of the NIL category, these are people coming in with no experience that are learning this from scratch. And maybe they're going to be given a bit more leeway. But I think like it's going to be a constant churn of, if someone's not picking it up in 6 months and we don't see that, we're moving on to the next group. Yeah. I think the patience is going to be a lot less where we saw in past years where the roster size got so high and it just got to be too much. I do feel there's going to be a lot shorter of a window when it comes to assessing talent. And if they're not picking it up, cutting bait. And if they're really that talented, they'll go and pursue this on their own and then don't have to do it on our time.
Right. Exactly.
Moving on to Raw ratings from Monday night. They were first on cable with 1.8 million viewers, a 0.54 in the demo. So this was a come down from the night after WrestleMania, but that was somewhat to be expected. This was still their third highest demo figure of 2022, and up 3%. Down 20% in 18 to 34 this week. So this was really the follow-up episode, and it was largely built around Cody Rhodes. So week 2 of Cody Rhodes, how would you say that the return to WWE has panned out and how he's faring as what he feels as like he is the main character on Raw at the moment?
Yeah, Cody Devontae Rose is Uncle Nate and dubbed him, man. Cody Devontae, but now I think it's still early. Like I think they're doing they're doing a great job. You know what I'm saying? You gotta give credit where credit's due. They're doing a great job of Cody's presentation, and but I mean it's still early. Like I think a lot of people are still thinking maybe at the WrestleMania Backlash show they probably go the 50-50 route. Seth Rollins get his win back. I will hope that they would not do that. Like and get Cody another W to keep his momentum going. Like as far as like his presentation goes, like they give him all the big pyro, they making him seem like a big star. The fans reacting to him in a way like even that WrestleMania post WrestleMania crowd last week, like that crowd was terrible. Like I don't know what the hell was going on with that crowd, but like they like when Cody's segment came on, they was they were lively and reacting to him. So and even with this segment when they was in Detroit with the Miz and like for real, man, I feel like with the Miz, like it was a lot of conversation. I'm pretty sure you saw it, like bits and pieces, like conversations about the Miz and like would this be a right first thing for Cody jumping out there and like the Miz plays his role. Like he ain't no like standout in ring performer. Like I think we all know this. Like this isn't anything like breaking news. Like, but I think with the Miz, he plays his role and he definitely has his moments there when when you see why people put him in the position he's in. Like even that part when he sort of heard the crowd like sort of they were making like a lot of noise. You could tell they were sort of leaning to a Cody chant. Miz sort of he got up and he was like, "Hey, you guys know what this means," and like just causing them to react even more to the guest that's on the show. So I gotta give Miz's props, man. Like it's a lot of people that sort of.
Yeah, I said this on Monday. I thought it was a good first television match for Cody. And even on top of it, like you can see that Cody is being portrayed as the outsider, the guy that is coming in. He's the one guy that gets to use the non-WWE verbiage. And Miz is like your prototypical WWE representative. So, I mean, it works for kind of the image that they are trying to convey to you of Cody as this outsider that has come back to WWE. And Miz, to me, was a fine opponent. They had a nice match, and it sets up the rematch with Rollins on the longer trajectory for Cody Rhodes. Obviously, the big thing is going for this title. How long do you hold off on that? Because they're not going to go to it right away, obviously, with Backlash, but is like long term is something at times WWE can struggle with. But where do you think they strike when it's hottest with Cody going after Reigns?
Man, like, dude, I really think like I don't know how long they can sustain this. Like, and that maybe see, the thing about what Roman, like, I'm sort of calling it like the Roman Reigns formula as far as what WWE does. Like, they built this dude up to a point where it's like I mean, Roman has, when people use the term over, he is over. Like, but when I'm looking at it, like, he has been built up to a point where when they place anybody in front of him, it doesn't even seem like there's a possibility that he's going to lose this match. And like that's. To me, that's a bad thing. Like
they're like very low on top baby faces. Like that's why I think Cody is very important to maintain in this role because it's him, to a lesser extent Drew, and
Yeah.
after that, and Lashley. Like, those are your three baby faces you have to work around. It's very tough when you're doing a story like this with the dominant champion that just runs through everybody.
Yes.
So it's very important to have those baby faces that can be the foil to him.
And like, John, when you saw Shinsuke Nakamura come out the other week, what I mean, I'm pretty sure like it was like that thing of like, oh, that's sort of different. But like, did you really think that there was like any chance that Shinsuke would that Shinsuke was like one of those guys who'd be like, oh, maybe he could take the title?
What are you saying? This has been all in the works since he won the Royal Rumble all those years ago. It was like, he's going to take a background role for several years. He's going to miss a bunch of pay-per-views, but then he's going to strike
exactly.
when it's least suspecting. And I think that hug, it was a game changer. I think we will look back at the changing of the guard for WWE with that hug. Is that even a Backlash level match? Is that just something for TV?
But
like,
it's something for TV, man. Like it does, like we just said it. We both just agreed on it. Like, they built Roman up to a point where it's like half the guys on the roster, like, you can't even like the match wouldn't even be sort of exciting because it's like you already. I mean, it could still be great, it could still be a good match, but you just know that there's no. And with my championship matches, specifically, like when I like watching world title matches, I like having that sort of that little bit of doubt, like that there might be a title change. Like, even with I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk about it with AEW with Adam Cole and Hangman Page. Like, I don't think Hangman's gonna lose the belt, but there's that idea that a part of me that really does think he could possibly lose it, and I like that in all my sort of championships. It just makes it more exciting, like just to have the prospect in. With Cody, man, like, I think you got to strike while the iron's hot. Like, I'm saying, like, probably SummerSlam, or maybe you strap them at that stadium show in the UK. Like, I mean, but anything can happen between now and then. Like, they've been trying. I'm pretty sure, as you know, they've been trying to heat Drew McIntyre up. Like, just talking about McIntyre, man. Like, do you think it's just a thing of like, because it has not worked at all. Like, I don't know what, like, they're trying, but with McIntyre, it's just not clicking. Do you just think it's a thing of like, he just had his run and now it's like it's going to pass that? Like, do you think that's just all it boils down to?
I wouldn't say that with Drew McIntyre. I would say that he's definitely been on the back burner for maybe too long. I don't think it's beyond the pale, though, that they can, reheat him up, but it will take some work. I don't think it's a case where you just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're going back to 2 years ago when he was at his hottest going into that WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar. But like, there is that danger. You keep someone too far out of sight, out of mind, and in these like middle of the card programs, that your audience starts to perceive someone at that level, and you're going against a Roman Reigns where you have to build that up. And I think the longer this goes, it is tough to bring the fans in unless you have a really compelling story behind it, to have those believable challengers. It's going to be tough. And I think with everyone sort of looking at this, we'll get into it with the tease on Young Rock, that if there is this the potential of this match happening and holding that off, it's a struggle this year to put Roman in compelling situations when everyone looks at that as a potential destination that's a year away.
Because who you got, right? You got like probably maybe 6 like top guys in the men's division that people are like behind, sort of like you got Coach, you got Cody, you got Bobby, you got Kevin Owens. I still feel like I feel like even Kevin Owens coming off of that loss to Austin. I mean, I don't think the Austin loss did nothing to him, but like I feel like Kevin Owens is always gonna be one of those guys you can slide in there. You got Seth Rollins, he's still over because like so sometimes when these big losses happen to wrestlers, I feel like they should always take a break. And I was kind of surprised to hear the reaction that Rollins got post Mania. Like, they were still, singing his theme music and stuff. That really surprised me, because I've always been a thing of like after people take big losses, they need to be off TV like just for maybe like a month or so, just so people can sort of forget. But like they still with Seth Rollins, and I mean, you got him. Got McIntyre, and I hope I didn't say him already. That's probably like 5 guys that you got right now. That's like on both sides. That's like really like up on that upper echelon, unless I'm forgetting somebody. So when I'm looking at going forward with Cody, I probably say SummerSlam, man, and then like you give him a nice little baby face run, and then once you get to that point where it starts to feel dry, you flip it, and then with our fantasy book, it is you bring Big E back for the Rumble, have him win the Rumble, and then he takes the title off Cody at WrestleMania, and then you make me happy. So cater to me, but I'm just playing. But like I mean, if I'm looking at it long term, I say he probably win the title at SummerSlam, Cody.
Well, on Young Rock on Tuesday night, I guess everyone was focused on this one scene that is set in 1993, and they are there watching Yokozuna and a young Joe Anawahi, the future Roman Reigns, is trying to wrestle with Dwayne Johnson. And Dwayne Johnson, when asked to wrestle, said, "No, the world is not ready. That match is only big enough for WrestleMania." So throwing out that little tease, maybe it materializes into nothing. Maybe it does. Just interesting to see them utilize Young Rock for a bit of synergy, which we have not seen before. And I guess that is the one that, if all things are in alignment, that is the match to make a year from now. But that also makes it very difficult because you're booking this around Dwayne Johnson's schedule. That even if you have a verbal commitment from him today, who is to say that come January, what his life is going to look like with the XFL launching, with whatever comes up in his very busy world. But do you like that direction, first of all, of Reigns and Rock, or does it create a bit of a lame duck period if that's what you're building to a year from now?
It does create sort of that lame duck period, like you said. But like going back to the Young Rock tease, like it was sort of like that sort of cool little thing that they did, and I mean that thing did get a lot of coverage. Like a lot of people picked up on that. Like a lot of different news sites covered that stuff. Like it was like it sort of made the rounds a little bit on social media last night. So like it
got like some wrestling attention on Young Rock that I don't think has been there. Like it's a show that I'm sure wrestling fans are watching, but it's also a show that this second season, it's not doing killer numbers, and having that, it's not something that they promote on WWE, even though it's in the NBC family. So I don't know necessarily what the crossover is, and this is certainly an example where wrestling fans took note of that one isolated scene.
Yeah, and I'm about to say it was that part in there, like when after he said like this match is only big enough for WrestleMania, like the child that was playing Roman Reigns, they him and The Rock sort of like locked eyes, and they had that like maybe like 3 second like stare off, and like it was like one of those like funny little moments where he was like, "Yeah, you said WrestleMania, like I got you." Like it was like one of those, I guess, one of those cool things. Like as far as Rock and Roman go, like it also goes back to that situation like that we was just talking about. Like now at this point, if Rock and Roman is where they're going for next year, like now you're just throwing people at the wall at Roman Reigns. Like, hey, who can we slot this guy with? Who can we put him with? And like I don't know. I just don't think that's a good way to go about it, because like anything can happen between, like you said, between now and next April. Like literally anything. You never know who could get hot, who might fall down a little bit. So as far as Rock and Roman goes, like I don't know. I think if they know for sure that Rock is probably wants to do something, they should probably check in with him around January and then see where he's at. Because like even what was that 20? What was that WrestleMania when that was WrestleMania 31 when Ronda and Rock
yes
had to face off with Triple H and Stephanie, right? I remember Triple H saying it was on one of the WWE Network shows. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember he said that happened because him and Rock were supposed to go one-on-one at WrestleMania 32. And then
they even shot the segment on TV.
Yes,
they did it, where they're backstage, and it was almost the same kind of scene where it's like they talk about WrestleMania, like the idea of one more match. But yeah, the plan fell apart.
Yeah, that like you said, that was supposed to happen. Then like Rock's schedule, like the dude busy, man. He got a lot of stuff going on and it just fell through. So I think you hit it on the head. Like anything can happen between now and next April.
Yeah. Last thing on WWE, and we'll move on to AEW tonight, is that so WWE, they have 2 stadium shows in July. They're in Vegas at Allegiant Stadium for Money in the Bank. The end of the month is SummerSlam in Nashville, another stadium, and then they've got Labor Day weekend, the Cardiff Whale show, which I think is going to be such a hot ticket. Yeah. I think the Whale show, that's going to be a 100% sellout. There's nothing to be concerned about. But 3 stadium shows, like, do you feel that the brand is hot enough, if you have the right match, that they can have 3 successful stadium shows in that 2-month period?
I think that what WWE believes is that the not necessarily the wrestlers is going to. I think that they are of the mindset internally that it's the event that is the spectacle, like the Money in the Banks. People want to see the money in the, like, is the all that stuff, and then of course you got what was that, SummerSlam. They're gonna be in the stadium as well. So yeah, I think that they believe that it's the event that So, and of course you're gonna need matches to add into those. But I think also like when you got like an event like Money in the Bank, I think that's what they sort of put the bread and butter on. And then I like you said, the Carter show, like that's, but I would honestly be surprised if that thing is not sold out. Like I'm talking about like immediately, like as soon as tickets go on sale. Because I had saw oh god, who put this out? I think it was Alex McCarthy at Talksport. I think he had said that he had tweeted out, saw it this morning, that WWE had informed him that they had like maybe like 50,000 like registered tickets or something like that. Like that is insane, bro. And that, I know that stadium sits like 70,000 people. So if you got 50,000 people already like pre-registering for tickets, like that, I would be very surprised if that thing is not sold out probably by within the first week. And like I think that's gonna be a high crowd. Like it was.
That's gonna be maybe the crowd of the year. It's gonna be, the atmosphere is gonna be spectacular for that show.
Real quick before we jump over, like what would you like? I know it's like real hard to say, but like who like what would you put at the top of that card? Like maybe like two matches that you think would be like, you know, probably. I mean, I think it's gonna be sold out regardless because people are gonna be excited to come see like a massive stadium show. But like sort of heading off that card, like what would you think would be like sort of the headlining acts like going into that?
Just because they've talked about it so much, I could see them finally doing like Tyson Fury with someone on that show, whether it's Drew McIntyre. Like that's a big match for Drew McIntyre. It will get a lot of attention for the show going in. Obviously a big match involving Roman Reigns, wherever that is. But yeah, I would like if you're going to use Tyson Fury again, that's the show to do it on. And it'll probably get a ton of attention throughout the UK. Tonight, though, AEW is in New Orleans, and this is a pretty loaded lineup that has come together over the past week. So Minoru Suzuki will be defending the ROH Television Championship against Samoa Joe. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus against Red Dragon for the tag titles. Penta versus CM Punk was added yesterday. Then we have Jericho, Jake Hager, and Daniel Garcia against Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland against Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. MJF against Sean Dean, and a rare seventh match on Dynamite with Marina Shafir and Sky Blue. So a loaded card, and apparently is going to have at least a bit of an overrun, according to Tony Khan. The TBS schedule is listing Rat in the Kitchen to follow at 10:02 p.m. Eastern Time. So going 2 minutes. I guarantee you there are going to be some angry AEW fans that missed this tweet that are going to go to their DVR and miss the last 2 minutes. But yeah, this is an experiment they appear to be trying with this overrun. But as a card, like this looks like a pretty stacked Dynamite card.
Bro, it is loaded. Like, and when you look at even the top three, what people consider the top three matches, Joe Suzuki, the tag title match, and then what like CM Punk and Penta. That's a stacked card, like within itself, man. Like so, I'm excited to see what's to come from it. Like, do you think Joe is gonna take the title off Suzuki?
Yes. I think we could even get two title changes on this show, unless you want to hold off on Red Dragon. But that would not surprise me if they flip both the titles that are being defended tonight. But I think Joe would be a near certainty. I would not want to beat him this early. And Suzuki is, he's got Windy City Riot, and I think that's the end of his U.S. commitments. So that would make the most sense, is Joe winning. With hopefully a hot crowd. It's not the biggest crowd that AEW has for a Dynamite, right, but still, they'll have in the neighborhood of 3,500 or so. And if he gets a comparable reaction to last week and choking out Minoru Suzuki, that's a big moment on the show, and probably what they closed the show with, don't you think?
Yeah, probably they should close the show with that. Like I was gonna ask you, like when referring to the ROH television title, like what would you say is sort of the best way to go as far as like ROH on a maybe weekly, semi-weekly basis? Like, do you think that they should like maybe do like just an abundance of TV tapings and sort of roll it out like that and have it coincide with the AEW product? Or do you think for now they should just stick to maybe doing like monthly or bi-monthly events like how they did with Super Card of Honor? Like what like just from your personal like maybe preference, like what would you say is the best route to sort of go with Ring of Honor?
Yeah, I think that's good to decipher, because for like the business side of it, you want to have weekly television that you're going to hopefully get a great deal for. Personally, I would like, I think the Ring of Honor thing, it's very difficult. Like I'm I'm not craving another hour of weekly television. That it's going to be like, I just think and not just myself, I think it's a big demand on your fan base that is already spread thin. And I think we've seen that over the last year, Andrew, where I think New Japan interest has dipped. I think like non-WWE, non-AEW, it's a real struggle to maintain week to week interest because there's so many hours to keep up with that. Like ROH, I would not be opposed to the idea of just doing, specials that can feel big, that you can promote, and they're, interesting matches that you're not going to see on AEW, that they can mix in, ROH alumni with AEW talent. You have some titles in circulation. You can make, Samoa Joe facing somebody that you never thought you would see, that you're not going to see in AEW, and you can build it that way. I think that would be, something that fans would get up for 5-6 times a year, maybe even 4 times a year. Weekly television, I think it's spreading Tony Khan super thin. Like I don't know if that's the best utilization of Tony Khan, is adding another hour of booking on top of all of this. Yeah, I think these are all relevant questions.
That's a great point. Like I know I was talking about this a couple of times. Like I know he's like very much, like I remember he even sent out a tweet about it not too long ago. Like he's clearly like, loving it and, being able to have all these different products. But like, I'm like, at some point, I feel like he's going to need some, like if Ring of Honor is going to be like a weekly television product and make just simply television tapings, I think he's going to need somebody to help him out. Like he's going to need somebody to like sort of pull some weight away from him, because I think at some point he may be able to go at it at 100 like now, like in the early stages. But I feel like if it does turn into something weekly, he's going to need somebody to sort of like throw in some different ideas and like just to take that load off. Because like at the same time, you got the Fulham stuff, you got AEW, you got Ring of Honor, now you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like it's that I think that's a lot for anybody. Like I don't care how speed you are, how fast your brain works. Like, at some point, you're going to get gassed out, like, and it's going to happen. So I like, and I think what you said is like, probably, on the nail. It's like that's a lot to ask, for another weekly product that you got to keep up with, like it's in Ring of Honor. But also it's like, they got the stable with, Tully Blanchard and stuff like that. Like how does that sort of weave into ROH? Like I think a lot of people want to see the Danielson, Jonathan Gresham match. Like I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to see that. So. But yeah, going back to Dynamite, like I really like how they're building up Marina Shafir, Jade Cargill. I don't think she's gonna beat Jade, but I feel like they are doing a good job of presenting Marina. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if when this Jade match happens, if Marina has a good showing, I wouldn't be surprised if she get the graphic after the match. Like I really wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
Yeah, and I wonder if they are gonna do this tonight and build up Jade and Shafir for Saturday for Battle of the Belts. Because I mean that's another show you have to promote this week, and we only have the one match so far.
That's this weekend.
Rosa. That's Saturday. you reacting like that tells me that this is not the top priority for a lot of people.
Because I know they got it's Thunder and Nala, and that's
Saturday.
That's it, right? Thunder and Nyla.
That's all they've announced so far. It's the one match for they're taping this
on
Friday.
I forgot. Like I forgot that was the Saturday. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to hit that hard tonight. But right. Yeah, I don't think these specials have been have come off as designed to be like these big quarterly specials. Like to me, it just feels like it's another hour. It's almost like an extended Rampage almost that we're getting on Saturday. Question here from the professor himself, Chris Ely. So has Tony Khan made it clear if ROH will work as developmental or not? Tony Khan has not stated what Ring of Honor will be, because I think it's all going to come down to what kind of deal they can or cannot get for Ring of Honor. If they don't have any significant distribution deal, then I don't see them putting a whole lot of resources into this in terms of creating new programming for Ring of Honor. Like you have the tape library, that's a great asset, but you need something to justify holding tapings and earmarking talent for Ring of Honor, which is a Tony Khan purchased project as well. It's not purchased by AEW, which is interesting in and of itself. So I think a lot of questions regarding Ring of Honor and how it rolls out and where we are 6 months from now in terms of that project. But that will be coming up tonight is Dynamite, and I'm going to be joined by Bruce Lord for Rewind to Dynamite. We will be live after Dynamite. Hopefully it's over by 10:02 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll be up minutes later here on the channel at youtube.com/postwrestling, so you can tune in tonight. And Andrew, the floor is yours to let everyone know where they can catch all of your great interviews. I know you have one already up with Myron Reed that you put up last week, who you spoke to in Dallas, but anything on the way in the near future?
Yeah, actually, I am. I go ahead and announce this, but I'm going to put up. Yeah, exclusive interview. I had a recorded interview yesterday with referee Yali Sapphire. I had interviewed her back in early 2020, and she was refereeing like a couple of different shows down in Dallas. So I'm gonna put that up on the YouTube channel. Then I'm gonna have the written version open post wrestling. I was too gassed out to do a written one for Myra. Y'all gotta understand. Boy was tired, man. I had to get some sleep. But
it's been a long week.
Long week. As I'm sure you know, man. But yeah. It was cool, man, and I hope everybody enjoys that interview. And yeah, real quick before we get out of here, what's your prediction for the lead-in movie for AEW tonight? What we getting? You getting knocked up? What we getting tonight? Transformers? What's happening tonight?
See, we get it on TSN up here, so it's like
okay.
Sometimes, dude, the lead-in used to be like this, like wood chopping challenge. Okay, it was like this. It was like this sport that is like chopping wood. That was the lead-in on TSN too. But down on TBS, I guess if I'd have to throw it, is Knocked Up a frequent one?
I always see Knocked Up, or I can't. What is that movie that me and Nate watched for his podcast, the movie podcast? It was one with The Rock and Kevin Hart. It's always that one, Knocked Up, or it's either some type of Transformers movie, or like.
Let's go with something Judd Apatow. I will go with a genre of like something Judd Apatow related. Maybe it'll be the 40-year-old virgin that leads.
There we go. 40-year-old virgin leading in AEW Dynamite. Big views.
Andrew, it's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking some time out to join me here on the Post Daily News Show. Again, Rewind to Dynamite tonight at, around 10:05 p.m. Eastern time with myself and Bruce Lord. Back tomorrow here with the Daily News at 1 Eastern. New edition of the British Wrestling Experience will be out Thursday. And in the not too distant future, the NWA podcast. They will reassemble with Andrew Thompson, Nate Milton, and Chris from LA. Always great to hear the three of you together. And there's never any shortage of subjects. The month is up for you guys to compile all the stories and go through and make sense of what's what.
The abundance of stories of like us sort of dragging it. I would take the blame for that. It's a lot to catch up on, man. It's a lot to catch up on. And then like when we talk, it's like we hear somebody say something and then it just veers off into another topic. It's hilarious, man. Those guys, they're great.
If you have time, go check out last month's edition and the Omos debate that I'm sure will continue for months to come. I'm still with Chris on that one, but we'll see. We will see. That is it for us, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Post Daily News Show.